The idea is that this is giving you benefits and rewards for progressing through the game. It's a progression system at its heart.
This
The
is
other thing
so.
that I'm really
This
excited.
is like super fucking important. It's actually one that I think should have been getting a lot more focus all this time. They've been a little low effort on reputation, I would say. It got dropped for a while, then picked up by the mission team, and even the missions team hasn't been able to really work much into this. I mean, last year at CitizenCon, we were being told that we were going to see reputation-based rewards for cargo hauling missions, and that those were coming in with the cargo hauling changes and stuff that happened in 324, which clearly isn't in. So it can be a little bit difficult to,
Structures.
put a lot of hope into reputation as progression, but it is meant to be the primary reputation in the game, or the primary progression.
Of fulfilling contracts and raising reputation with these companies. For rewards, we'll have branded ship and tool skins, branded clothing. There will be collectibles to decorate your hab, hangar, or ship, or you can put them anywhere you want. And there'll be more exclusive rewards that we'll be revealing later. Thank you.
So that hasn't really happened yet. And now we get to this CitizenCon where they kind of start to tell us how this functions across the entirety of the game. And they've expanded it to be in guilds and orgs. And your guild and orgs will have different relationships with you, with other guilds and orgs in the game, with your own org, with other orgs. Everything will have a different understanding of one another. It kind of links back to the virtual AI we talked about in the beginning of this stream. Everything sort of links back together to give you a sense of progression and custom experience based on who you work with or for in the game. Here is a nice little rundown of the different guilds and what they do.
Considered by many to be the new jewel of the Empire, Terra has been a shining star against the more imperialistic tendencies of Earth, even in the darkest days of the Messer regime. Now, many believe that Terra should be the new center of the UEE. I don't know how you all feel about that. Yeah, a lot of division. But that's our starting five. Each system and each planet will be featuring the massive level of outposts, POIs, stations, biomes, and exploration options that we've been perfecting with Stanton and Pyro, and you've been seeing in some of the other presentations this weekend. But we're adding one more level. We're also going to be adding location stories. Now, these will be short, NPC-driven missions sprinkled across our landing zones and cities that will exist outside of the main story, but will help provide an additional bit of lore and character to the location that they take place in. So, that's our main story. Let's talk more about the guilds that Rich mentioned. First, a quick recap. Guilds act as a governing body for clusters of professions and factions with a reputation and progression system that will offer rewards the more you work for them. And I want to call out two things. One, I'm not going to have time to dive into all of the missions that you're going to see on this board, but just know that every mission type is either in the 1.0 roadmap or already in production. And second, we're also looking to move missions away from the mobiGlas whenever possible. Sure, it will always be an easy way for us to get additional game content in, but we want you talking with people. So to aid that,
Get out of here.
we're
I
going
hate
to be
people.
adding characters to represent the factions that you'll be working for that will help sell their personality. Now, some, they'll still interact with you via the written word, but some will call and check in on your performance. And others, you may have to meet in person from time to time. So, let's walk through them. Here we have the first guild that Rich showed, the United Resource Workers. Whether you're eager to earn credits, mining valuable resources from remote corners of the universe, sifting through detritus to try and salvage some valuable components, or even just acting as a technician, you'll find plenty to do with employers like Shubin Interstellar, United Wayfarers
Honestly, even
Club.
this, I think, I will accept that fuel stuff seems like it will be lower down in 1.0 than I thought it would be, because there's a lot refining wise that you can do when it comes to fuel, but it feels like a lot of the refining they've talked about has been solid material. And they did mention in the base building stuff that there'd also be gas refining and stuff like that, but I'm I'm iffy on what they're saying about fuel gathering and stuff. This is a very cool guild, though. I think GII, our own organization, will be heavily involved in this guild. We do a lot of industrial stuff, and with our focus around, shipments and manufacturing, farming, and getting those places, I think this will be a good friend of ours. That being said, though, because I think this gets a little misunderstood when I say that, we are also providing our own services in terms of security, exploration, land acquisition, surveying, and things. We are not just an industrial org, and we're always looking for combat folks.
Next, you have one of the oldest unions in the UEE, the Interstellar Transport Guild. This will be the go-to place for everybody looking to make their fortune hauling.
This is a good one to keep in mind that you will see here. They have a transporter section. So passenger delivery, vehicle delivery, and data delivery are 3 different types of hauling that we don't have in the game right now. This being data running, this being obviously being a passenger transport, and this being vehicle delivery, which would benefit things like the Ironclad, perhaps, the Liberator, and other ships that are built specifically to move vehicles and not just cargo. You also obviously got cargo delivery. You've got recovery cargo, which is kind of like what we do for bodies already with the investigation missions. Then you have trader and courier. It'll be interesting to see what missions go with trader as opposed to hauler. Like, they're going to actually have you put your own money on the line? Are they going to give you lump sums of money to try and get a specific deal that they know they can't because they're at a certain organization? Like, how does that function in the missions?
Trading. Some of the factions that many of you already work for now, such as Ling Family Hauling, Redwind, and FTL. And we're going to be adding something special for the daredevils out there, the Imperial Sports Federation. So aside from the usual racetracks that are both legitimate and illegitimate, we're actually going to be leveraging some of our existing mechanics to build new sports and provide an outlet for all you Murray Cup enthusiasts, cargo Olympians, and competitors to see just who's the best out there.
So, like, this means they have to have Ellis, right? I don't understand. How can they do this and not have Ellis? What is this madness? Also, where is Saddleball? Come on.
And competitors to see just who's the best out there. For those who dream of exploring, I'm sure we have a couple here.
Yeah, this is like the most exciting
the
guild.
Academy of Sciences that was brought up yesterday in the social presentation, if you saw that. This is a science guild that will include factions like the Imperial Cartography Center.
Hey, Red Monster.
Who will task you with a variety of missions to better understand our universe, such as sending you into a nebula to do deep scans, or finally seeing what's at the bottom of that planetary canyon. We're going to have a new faction called High Point Wilderness Specialists.
See, this is also like some people were saying exploration in the game is dead. Look at all the different places where they're trying to create opportunities for missions. They can't even plan to do this if they are going to just kill the possibility of exploration. You got to remember how big these star systems are, and the fact that people simply haven't explored all of them. There's a lot of points of interest and little things that you could put throughout a star system that could still be interesting. Also, this says corpse instead of crops, so it's all a scam.
Who will offer missions associated with the various fauna that we're starting to get into the game, from population control missions to harvesting specific resources for research. Now, I don't know if we have some people who'd like to do combat, but our combat guilds were doing something a little
Carfters.
different. Now, previous to this, these were all of our profession guilds. But for our combat guilds, they operate a little differently. See, these two are diametrically opposed to each other. So once you pledge allegiance to one, the other marks you as an enemy. On the lawful side, we have the Mercenary Guild. They represent factions like Eckhart Security, the Bounty Hunters Guild, and even some military contractors. So whether you're pulling together a team of specialists to go assault a ground base, hunting down an elusive criminal, or putting together a recon run to drum up some intel, Mercenary Guild's got you covered. On the flip side,
this is so, like I was saying, this is still going to be something that GII is doing plenty of. There's actually quite a few things that haven't really been mentioned all that much that GII will be included in. But specifically, finding VIPs, protecting VIPs, this kind of stuff is going to be important to us because not only do we want to be the provider of crops and services in the area we're in, we're also trying to keep it safe for the people who are there or the people who are aligned with GII.
To drum up some intel, mercenary guilds got you covered. On the flip side, we have the council.
Is
Now,
bounty
this is
hunting? Yeah, why isn't bounty hunting part of the mercenary guild? Where is? Oh, it is. It's right here. So yeah, they're going to have to break up how they do missions anyways, because it's confusing as it is, telling somebody, yeah, take a mercenary contract. The heck does a mercenary contract mean?
On the flip side, we have the council. Now, this is a shadowy group comprised of representatives from various gangs, syndicates, and outlaws who mandate criminal activity throughout the verse.
It's also keen to notice here that even though these are criminal missions, they call them, they're still other types of missions just wrapped up in the criminal enterprise. Scan area, scan object, deploy objects, kill VIP, race fixing fraud, interdict target. These are all just other flavored missions from the other types of game, just wrapped up in the underbelly of the game itself. And I hope that they can both provide enough content like this to make criminal players have fun in this game without breeding too much of a criminal element that focuses on other players. I think it's completely fine to focus on other players occasionally and every once in a while, but it's, in my opinion, I think it's a more interesting game when the people who want to do criminal stuff are balanced PvE, PvP. And the game needs to be good enough to provide enough fun that people don't always want to go for players. So that just helps to make more systems that has criminal elements without having more intense criminal dangers. And maybe part of that will also be just having more game-controlled pirates that are NPCs than just players. Can our corp align with more than one guild? We're going to get to that right after this. Yeah, this is pretty high level. It is pretty high level, and I honestly was hoping it would be a little lower level, but they touched on most of the things I think they needed to.
You'll be able to throw in with rough and tumble gangs like the Headhunters and the Dead Saints, or work your way up to join highline criminal syndicates like the Atonis or the Drop Kings. But remember, the underworld is a dangerous place run by greed and power. So mercenary guild reps might not be the only people you have to worry about, as the syndicates are always looking for loyal soldiers who will hurt their competition and tip the scales of power in their favor. So as you can see, there's going to be a universe of exciting storytelling opportunities for you to undertake in 1.0. But one more thing, we're also going to revitalize our social behaviors to make the populations not only feel more alive and reactive and off chairs, but better reflect the tone and flavor of the areas that they're
still
inhabiting.
be on chairs. Come on now.
We want to see the people of Loreville slowly trudging through the streets, overburdened by the ruthless contracts, just as much as we want to see the tourists of Orison gleefully moving from attraction to attraction. And all of this is what's going to make Star Citizen be the experience we set out to make. A diverse universe with a rich tapestry of stories, characters, and experiences for you to live in.
And protection.
So that's guilds and reputation, and really just a big part of how the progression in the game works. I think Rich comes in here and talks a little bit more about how this progression will work specifically. He's talking about core progression here, death of a spaceship, yada yada yada. So this is kind of like the gameplay loop and how it would work based off of this.
I actually had to ask them to take the variants out because it didn't fit on this slide. And let's zoom all the way into the prospector, a stalwart of the mining community. But let's say I really fancy acquiring a military Mark II Hornet. Let's go on a simplified journey of how I could get one. Firstly, I know I won't be able to buy it, as it's a military ship, so I'm going to need to craft it. That means I will need the fabrication hangar blueprint. Luckily, I can earn it by doing mining missions to gain rep with the United Resource Workers, and I already have the perfect ship, my trusty prospector. With blueprint in hand and some excess credits, I can now purchase a small plot of land on Stanton and build my fabrication hangar. Step 1, complete. Now I need to grab the Mark II Hornet blueprint. For this, I need mercenary rep. and more importantly, a combat ship. With that in mind, I will do a few more mining contracts to earn enough credits to purchase a Mustang from the dealership. Now I can start doing combat pilot missions for the Mercenary Guild, so I can unlock the Mark II Hornet blueprint. Okay, step 2 of our simplified loop is complete. I have the Mark II blueprint, but I need the resources to craft it. So I come full circle back to my prospector, but this time I'm mining for resources instead. As you can see, this closes the loop. No longer am I mining just because I like it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But now I am mining for a purpose and for multiple reasons. For credits, for reputation, for resources, for blueprints, and ultimately as a stepping stone to crafting my own ships to enjoy other professions.
So
and this is just
that's your solo player progression. That's your gameplay. That's where I think a lot of the drive to actually doing things as a solo player, not as an org or a group, but as a solo player in this game will come from. Upgrading your kit, finding the things you like, figuring out how to use them, pursuing more missions. Like, there's only so much you can do to create incentives to pursue gameplay for yourself. Money, reputation, freedom of gameplay. And those 3 things are basically you run through the guilds, you do missions for them, you figure out what the best rewards you want are, what the best guilds to partner with are for the blueprints you want, and you grind away at that. And preferably that grind should be fun. It should be different encounters, different factions, different locations, and different things you're doing in each of these missions, but ultimately it all just comes down to like, what are you working towards? And a big part of this is going to be the reputation that you can get when you work with the different guilds in the game. So there's your solo player gameplay.